would like to welcome everyone to the Henry County Zoning Advisory Board meeting for May the 9th, 2019. This meeting is being televised on Charter and Spectrum Channel 180 and AT&T U-verse Channel 99. It will air daily at 1 p.m. and with additional airing on Thursday at 7 p.m. A video is available on demand on the county website. Please turn off all cell phones and laptops and set them to vibrate. Anyone wishing to speak tonight, please fill out a public hearing speaking card. A total of 10 minutes will be allotted for anyone wishing to speak in favor of a case and 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of a case. For example, if multiple people wish to speak, you will all share in that 10 minutes. When you're speaking, please face the board and not the audience. If you turn to the audience, we will assume that you are complete and move on to the next speaker. We will now hear the pledge and invocation by Mr. Moore.
Please rise for the invocation. Father God, we thank you and appreciate all your many blessings. We ask you to keep us safe as we travel back home tonight after the meeting. As we enjoy the privilege of peacefully assembling, Lord, please remind us to assemble peacefully. Give us wisdom as we make decisions that affect each other, and give us a sweet spirit to remember that at the end of the day and after the issues are discussed, that we should go home and live in peace. Thank you for everything. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. And now the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is now called to order. Do I have a motion to amend the agenda?
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda, please.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. And that motion?
Also to nominate a secretary, now that Dante's gone.
Okay.
I will second that as well.
All righty.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. And
Chair, if you would just state for the record who the person that was nominated and appointed is, just for the record.
Okay, thank you. All right, would you like to amend that motion, Ms.?
I can't. I don't have a name.
Okay. Stacy.
I'm sorry. My bad. So I will amend the motion to nominate the secretary, Stacy Rudisell.
And I will second.
All right.
We
Now
have
we're
a
on track.
motion and a second to amend the agenda to nominate Stacy. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Do we have
And a motion to approve the minutes from the March 14th meeting, also the March 28th meeting, and January 24th.
That's correct. Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to amend the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay. Staff, do we have any comments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. I'd like to take the opportunity to introduce to you our newest staff member, Miss Rashida Fairley. She's our Planner 1, and she'll be taking care of our planning and zoning specialist functions.
All right. All right.
And regarding Mr. Gibbs, he is with us in spirit, though he will not be attending our meetings physically anymore, but Mr. Gibbs is certainly still at the county, and he's still overseeing my duties regarding the Zoning Advisory Board. So Dante is certainly still here.
All right. Thank you. All right. Any additional comments from staff?
No, sir.
Okay. If there's no additional comments, we'd like to hear the first case, please.
The first case, CU 19-5, 27 Baseball LLC of McDonough, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 1634 Highway 42 South in land lot 219 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.182 plus or minus acres, and the request is for amusement, sports, and recreation with associated retail. This is in District 1, and it will be presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisell.
Good evening, Mr.
Chief
Chair.
Planner.
The request before you tonight, I'm sure you're all familiar with the location. It's a large brick building at the corner of Highway 42 near King Mill Road. This property is illustrated in your exhibit books and also on the overhead is indicated as M1, which is a light manufacturing zoning district. Originally, the request was for sporting goods retail only. That's not something that's a permitted use in the M1 zoning district. However, we discovered that the applicant is interested in providing batting cages as a part of their business mix. And so the request before you tonight is for a conditional use for sports, recreation, and amusements for the principal use of the subject property for batting cages with associated retail. Staff has evaluated the applicant's request. We've noted the merits thereof, and these are listed in the staff report. We do recommend approval with one condition, and that condition is simply that a floor plan would be provided to the fire marshal so that they'll know what area of this property is to be used for the batting cages and what area of this property will be used for the retail. And because the principal use of this structure is limited to the sports and recreation and amusements and not the retail, that floor plan will need to illustrate that the square footage of the area for retail will be less than the area of square footage for the batting cages. And I'd be very pleased to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff? Okay. All right. If no questions, we'd like to call the applicant forward, please. We'd like to call the applicant forward, please. Thank you. Okay. You have anything additional you'd like to add? And please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, sir. Dal Culberson, 124 Darwest Drive, McDonough, Georgia, 30252.
Anything additional you'd like to add to staff comments?
The only other thing is Stacy's been very helpful with everything. The idea initially was to provide something to the citizens and their children to keep the kids, I've been involved in baseball all my life, to keep the kids from leaving Henry County and going, which normally is north to Cobb County and further, to keep the kids here, give the opportunity for instruction, the opportunity for the associated retail where they can go somewhere local and buy their stuff as opposed to leaving the county and buying it elsewhere.
Does the board have questions for the applicant?
How many batting cages are you planning to install?
We have one specific one already installed with 3 additional batting cages in the warehouse section with 2 pitching lanes as well. And then on the 3rd floor of the building, there is room for a private batting cage and pitching lane for the teams that we specifically coach. So,
Parking, is there any issues with the parking? I know there's parking spaces up front, but there's also additional parking behind, I believe.
that's correct, sir.
Okay.
There's what we think to be ample parking based on the batting cages that would be in the warehouse will have their own access there. Traditionally, you would have one team that's assigned to a batting cage at a time, which normally in the baseball side of things, and I believe softball as well, you're dealing with somewhere between 10 to 15 kids at a time. Our team specifically, when we go to the batting cage that we use now, break it up. Normally you get 1 hour for half a team, the other hour for the second half of the team. So it's easier where you only have 6 or 7 kids coming at one time, which I think would be, there's definitely ample space for parking for the entire building.
So staff has no issues with parking?
We do not foresee any issues with the parking. In the case that there aren't enough existing striped spaces, there appears to be a large amount of paved dust-free area where additional parking spaces can be striped at the subject property.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions? If there's no additional question, you may be seated, sir. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. No one's coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the case. Okay. Does the board have any additional questions for the applicant or staff? Okay, if not, we'd like to call the case.
CU 19-5, 27 Baseball LLC of McDonough, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 1634 Highway 42 South in Land Lot 217 of the 7th District. The property consists of 1.182 plus or minus acres, and the request is for amusement, sports, and recreation with associated retail. District 1, and it's presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisell, Chief Planner.
Okay. We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion on case CU-1905, request conditional use request to approve.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair, just for clarification, was that approval with the staff condition?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. We have a motion and a second to approve with staff conditions. Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Call the next case, please.
CU 19-4, McIntosh Trail Community Service Board of Griffin, Georgia, requests a conditional use standards for property located at 3025 Jonesboro Road in land lots 106 and 107 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.32 plus or minus acres, and the request is for an assisted living facility. This property will be located in District 2 and presented by Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
I'd just like to make one correction. It's for a personal care home. Good evening, Chair and board members. The conditional use request is for a property located at 3025 Jonesboro Road. The property is zoned RA. The conditional use request is for a personal care home. The applicant intends to have up to 6 clients. Personal care homes are permissible in all residential zoning districts and subject to the standards of the district and the supplementary standards in the ULDC section 4.0319, and is required for an approved conditional use for all non-home occupations except for RA zoning district, where they're allowed to have up to 4 clients without an approved conditional use. Because the applicant is requesting to have up to 6, that is why they're coming in for the conditional use. With that being said, staff recommends approval for the conditional use. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff?
Mr. Chair.
Okay.
You made the announcement at the beginning that it was a correction, that it was a personal care home. Could you describe the difference between that and assisted living facility?
Yes, it's just the different types of, as far as an assisted living, they're in their own units. They normally have kitchens within the unit. They cook on their own. They just have an assistance if they need help. Whereas a personal care home, there's 24/7 assistance. Someone lives in the home. They don't have their own personal units. They're just in rooms, and they have people to cook their meals and assist them with their daily medications they may have to take.
Any additional questions for Mr. Richard?
Do we know how many bedrooms are in this home at this time?
That may be a question for the applicant. From the pre-app notes, I believe they have 4 bedrooms, but I'm pretty sure the applicant can confirm that for you.
Okay, thank you.
Any additional questions for staff? Mr. Carmack?
Are there state regulations governing this type of situation?
Yes, so the county, we allow people to have personal care homes within the county. They must have their state license before applying for a business license.
Any additional questions? If not, we'd like to call the applicant forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Amanda Stokes, 1435 North Expressway, Griffin, Georgia, 30223.
Do you have anything additional you'd like to add to staff comments?
No, we don't have any additional information at this time.
Does the board have questions for the applicant?
How many facilities or activities does McIntosh Trail serve, here in Henry County and within the service area that you operate?
I know we have a DD Day program, day habilitation program, and we have now hopefully the ITR program that I'm aware of.
Okay, would this home be managed by McIntosh Trail itself, or would it be another service provider that
McIntosh
contracts
Trail.
you?
McIntosh Trail
Okay.
itself.
I have a question. I'm looking on here at your flyer. It says mental health, developmental disabilities, addictive diseases. Who's going to be in the house? Is it?
It's adults with mental health issues that comes from the state hospitals that come into our facility to prepare to go back into the community on their own. They come to our facility for stabilization, to go back into the community.
Mr. Bishop?
Let's see, will there be a staff full-time that?
Yes.
At the facility?
Yes, 24/7.
Yeah. And also, I did visit the property and looked at the home, and it seems to be a pretty sizable home, but it looks like it's been unused for quite some time, and there's a lot of vegetative growth that's kind of encroaching on it. What's your plan for a general cleanup of the property so that it is compatible with other residential properties in the area?
We've recently just had our property service as far as lawn care. We've had some stuff that needed to be fixed. We've done all of that recently in the past, I think 2 months.
Okay, and will there be staff 24 hours a day? In other words, would somebody stay overnight,
We
to
have-
help
We have 3 different shifts, so it'll be someone there 24/7, but 8-hour shifts, as well as me as the program manager during the day.
Will your clients be able to freely come and go as they please?
No, they are always assisted by staff in the community.
Question for staff, I guess the applicant too, is I'm looking on the Google Earth view. 2 houses are those residential houses on either side of the property?
Any additional questions? I have one question. Earlier, there was a question concerning number of beds. What's the total number of beds you actually have in the facility now?
5.
5? Okay, and do you plan to go up to 6, or I know you're asking to be approved up to 6. Do you plan?
Well, we plan to double the rooms.
I'm sorry, say
We
it.
plan to double the rooms.
Okay.
They'll have a shared space.
So the total number you will move up to is 6?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Any additional questions?
I do. What is the, I know Jim had mentioned the exterior of the property in terms of the landscaping. What about the house itself? What kind of condition is it in currently? And is it,
it's in excellent condition inside and out.
so kind of move-in ready?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And so about how soon after you get approval would you anticipate being able to move into the property?
We're looking at the end of this month.
Oh, wow, okay.
Now, would any of the occupants drive themselves, or would staff
I
take
didn't
them
hear you.
around in
I
a
didn't hear you.
van?
I didn't hear you.
I said, would any of the occupants drive their own vehicles?
No, sir. They're transported from the facility to our
Okay.
facility.
All right, so you would transport them to various activities or
Yes,
or
sir.
for medical
Yes, sir.
support and that kind of thing?
So these are primarily patients with mental health issues, any additional physical disabilities or
No, ma'am.
issues? So,
No, ma'am.
and they're transitioning from a state
State
facility?
hospital. Yes, ma'am.
And then how long normally does that process take, the transition period?
Well, it can, like, right now it's starting, we're getting referrals now. Normally it takes up to about 30 days, and they stay up into our facility for about 180 days, or until we feel that they are stable enough to go into the community.
And then who do they transition back to their families or independently live in, it just varies, I'm sure, on the situation.
It varies. It varies. But the goal is to get them back on their own in the
Sure.
community.
And then, are they allowed to have visitors? Do visitors,
Yes, ma'am.
family, friends can come in?
Yes, ma'am. Prior, they have to, like, set a schedule. They can't just walk in and say, I'm visiting.
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
And then doctor's visits are primarily off-site, or does a physician or examiner come to the property?
The doctor's appointments are off-site. We do have a nurse that comes in periodically to look at our MARs and make sure they're compliant with their medications.
And how many staff members? I know you're there during the day, and then you have 3 shifts, so 24/7, 1 or 2, is it 1 or 2?
I have 2 staff per shift.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, Mr. Carmack and then Mr. Brown.
Are you restricted as to the type of mental health patient you will accept there?
It depends. It depends on their case.
For example, a person who has been designated, say, a sexual predator, would you be able to accept that type patient?
I don't think so. I don't want to say yes or no today, but I don't think so.
We'll finish this up, Mr. Richard.
Yeah, I think these are people that either have some sort of developmental disability or else some kind of psychiatric issue. They're not criminals. They're
Right.
I think they're just like everyday
Yes, sir.
people. They just
Yes, sir.
have those types of issues. Now, are you familiar with the Olmsted decision that was made against the state of Georgia concerning inmate populations, and that the state was being forced over time through the U.S. Justice Department to close down institutions and to transition to community based housing?
No, I'm not familiar with it.
Yes, these are patients. Are they, how do you go about choosing, you said they're gonna be doubled up in the rooms, how do you go about ensuring the safety of the residents once they're paired with each other?
We do initial TAP meetings where as me being the liaison, I have to go into the state hospitals to basically assess them and interview them. That way I can make my decision if they are like a match with a certain roommate beforehand, before they're even discharged from the hospital.
Okay, and then if you find there's a problem after they've been received into your facility, how do you go about correcting those problems?
Well, first off, they are granted the guidelines of the house, and they should know the rules beforehand, and they know any consequences can lead them back into the state hospital.
Are they restricted from leaving the home at certain hours, or are they able to just?
They're not able to freely leave the home. They are always assisted with staff, 24/7, everywhere they go, until they're discharged from our facility back into the community.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr.
Does your organization make the final decision of when an individual is ready to go back into society, or is that an outside entity that makes that decision?
We make it based on if we feel that they are ready to go back into the community as a whole. They have meetings all the time that we call them TAP meetings, transitional meetings.
Yes, ma'am. So the average tenure of a person staying at your facility is around 180 days?
180 days.
So in the 6 months, do you feel that you can properly assess someone's status if they're ready to rejoin society?
Sometimes they stay a little longer.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant?
Basically, everyone stays in the house, and it's rather large property. There's, what, 4 acres there?
Yes, ma'am.
Will the patients ever be outside doing
yes, ma'am.
physical? Do you take them outside to play volleyball?
Oh, yes, ma'am. They'll have activities. The staff compiles a schedule of activities, even outings, and they also participate in the ACT program where the ACT team comes and get them and take them to their facility for outings and different events that they do with them, as well as peer support.
And when they do go out for activities, will they stay within Henry County, or will they go out further, or it just depends?
Just depends on what
Okay.
that activity is for that day.
Sure.
They can go outside of Henry County, as long as they're with staff.
Gotcha.
And that brings up another question on my part. Now, what age group are you catering to?
Adults, I think 18 and up.
18 and up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, if there's no additional questions, you may be seated.
Thank you.
All right. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. No one's coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition. Okay. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant or staff? If not, we'd like to call the case.
CU 1904 McIntosh Trail Community Service Board of Griffin, Georgia, requests a conditional use for property located at 3025 Jonesboro Road in land lots 106 and 107 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.32 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a personal care home in District 2. And the report was presented by Ms. Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I would like to make a motion that board agrees with staff recommendation to approve this request CU 1904.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Second by Mr. Moore. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. Call the next case, please.
BR 1906 McIntosh Trail Community Service Board of Griffin, Georgia requests a variance from development standards for property located at 3025 Jonesboro Road in land lots 106 and 107 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.32 plus or minus acres, and the request is to reduce the road frontage and setback requirements. This is District 2, and the report is presented by Ms. Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair and Board.
Good evening.
The variance request is for a property located at 3025 Jonesboro Road. The applicant is requesting a variance to reduce requirement for a flag lot to have 60 feet of road frontage to 30 feet of road frontage. According to Henry County Tax Assessor, the subject property was built in 1995 with 30 feet of road frontage. In 2009, the ULDC was changed, requiring flag lots to have 60 foot of road frontage. Currently, the property is legally non-conforming, and we're bringing it before you guys today just to make sure that if any further changes or anything that may happen, they will be covered under the variance to be legal. At this point, staff recommends approval for a variance from 60 feet of road frontage to 30 feet of road frontage. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Does the board have questions for staff?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Moore?
Describe, say like worst case scenario, what would be a negative or a drawback of of approving this, and then what could go wrong because of it?
There's not necessarily a negative. It's just a change that was made in 2009 requesting, requiring more road frontage for the ULDC for flag lights. Because Jonesboro Road is under Georgia DOT, when they widen Jonesboro Road, then the changes will be made anyway.
Okay. Mr. Butler?
Correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't the code provide that if the lot was there prior to the new codes being adopted, everything is okay so long as they don't make any alterations?
Because they came in for the conditional use for the personal care home, that is a change. It is still a residential property, but now we're adding a new use. So we just wanted to bring them in at the same time to clarify that, so there's no other issues in the future.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay, if there's no additional questions, we'd like the applicant to come forward. Please state your name and address again for the record.
Amanda Stokes, 1435 North Expressway, Griffin, Georgia.
Okay. Anything you would like to add to staff recommendations?
I don't have any.
Staff comments?
I don't have any additional information.
Okay. Does the board have additional questions for the applicant? Okay. If there's no additional question, you may be seated.
Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we would like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Okay, if there's no one coming forward, I'd like to call the case.
BR 1906 McIntosh Trail Community Service Board of Griffin, Georgia, requests a variance from development standards for property located at 3025 Jonesboro Road in land lots 106 and 107 of the 6th District. The property consists of 4.32 plus or minus acres, and the request is to reduce the road frontage and setback requirements. This is District 2, and the report was presented by Ms. Jewel Richardson, Planner 1.
Okay. We've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to go with staff recommendation to approve this request, BR 1906.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Mr. Moore. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion carries. All right. Call the next case, please.
BR 1901, the Forest Development Group Incorporated of Ellenwood, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, Residential Agricultural, to MU, Mixed Use, for property located on Flippin Road, east of Interstate 75, in land lots 38, 39, 26, and 27 of the 12th District. The property consists of 317.661 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a mixed-use development to include single-family, multifamily, office, and commercial uses. This is in both Districts 4 and 5, and the report is presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Nieves, Planner 2.
Good evening, Chair and board members.
Good evening.
This rezoning request is for property located on either side of Flippin Road, north of Walt Stevens Road, and to the east of Interstate 75, as highlighted in green in your exhibit books and as seen on the overhead screen. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to MU Mixed Use for the development of a mixed single-family residential, multifamily residential, townhome, office, commercial, and municipal development. Of the over 400 acres of total development site, this request concerns only 317 plus or minus acres, which are within unincorporated Henry County. Portions of the proposed total development area include property within the city of Stockbridge and Clayton County. So on the site plan on the screen above, the orange line markates the line between Henry County and Clayton County. Everything between the orange line and the yellow is city of Stockbridge. So this request is specifically for the area highlighted in yellow in the site plan. As per the site plan dated April 8th, 2019, and according to correspondence received by Planning and Zoning staff, the residential uses proposed consist of 2 pods of single-family homes for a total of 282, 3 pods of multifamily apartments for a total of 800 units, 3 multifamily townhome pods with a total of 131 units. There's also an age-targeted or age-restricted component consisting of 33 single-family cottages, 15 duplex units, so 30 total, 168 independent living units, 160 assisted living units, and 40 memory care units. Of the commercial uses proposed, originally the applicant proposed 150,000 square feet of mixed office and industrial. As per correspondence received by Planning and Zoning staff earlier today, that use the applicant has requested to change that use to only office. In addition to that, there are multiple hotels and general retail. For the municipal complex, the applicant is proposing a 10,000-seat arena, an arts center, and a convention center, hotels, and parking facilities. Adjacent to the municipal complex, 16.8 acres have been allocated for a mass transit area. Finally, the applicant's request meets the threshold established by the Georgia Department of Community Affairs requiring state review as a development of regional impact, or DRI. While this board can make a recommendation to the Board of Commissioners while this review process is ongoing, no final zoning action can be taken by the Board of Commissioners until that notice of decision from the state has been received by the county. So this mixed-use development is compliant with the future land use map designation of the subject property, which is mixed use, which allows for up to residential density of up to 16 dwelling units per net acre. As per correspondence received by Planning and Zoning staff, the combined gross density of the development is 10.15 dwelling units per acre. As this future land use designation allows up to 16, the development will be required to comply with that limit. Upon evaluation of the request, staff recommends approval of the request with 16 conditions, and I will place those on the overhead screen. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions for staff?
Now, you mentioned, you mentioned 317 acres is what we're concerned with today, correct?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay.
The total development area. This area here is Clayton County.
Okay.
This area here is City of Stockbridge. So the rezoning request is only concerning this portion here. The entire development site is the DRI, the Development of Regional Impact, and will be included as the total development area. But for the rezoning, it's only the area highlighted in yellow.
Okay. Okay. All right,
Go
thank
ahead.
you.
Along those same lines, the area bounded within the yellow, is this the area where the 10,000-seat arena, Arts Center, and Convention Center will be located?
Yes, sir. That's here.
Okay, another question I have. I think you indicated that you have received new correspondence from the applicant, because the last letter of intent that at least I have is dated January the 3rd, 2019.
Yes, so this request, I see that letter of intent. This request was originally primarily industrial. It was not as large, and it was almost all industrial. So since then, the applicant has revised their site plan. So that letter of intent is unfortunately outdated.
And did I understand you correctly that instead of commercial and industrial, we're limiting this to office, the 150,000?
So this area here on the site plan is designated for 150,000 square feet of industrial/office. The applicant has indicated that they would like to remove the industrial component and for that area to only be offices.
Any other questions?
No, this time, no.
Yes, state again how many hotels you said they were interested in locating on that property?
I'd have to look at the plan, but I believe it's 2, if you allow me just a moment to check. While there are some hotels proposed for the area outside of our jurisdiction, there are, I believe, 2 hotels close to the mass transit complex and another 2 close to the Arena Convention Center. So total, I believe, 4, but the applicant may have different numbers.
Okay, but as far as we know, within our jurisdiction, it's just 2?
4.
4, okay, thank you.
What exactly is the mass transit component?
I don't have any other information regarding that specifically than what's in the site plan. The applicant might be able to provide more information on that.
And do we know Flippin Road is a candidate for widening at some point? Do we know when that might happen?
I'm not sure. We don't have that date at this time, but Flippin Road is a major arterial, and I agree that it's my understanding that it is a candidate for widening, but I don't have that date.
Yep, thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, last
Mr.
question.
Carmichael?
Has a feasibility study been performed on the appropriateness of having an arena, an art center, and convention center in that location?
To the best of my knowledge, that has not been completed. This past Tuesday, May 7th, there was a development agreement that was signed between the applicant and the county, and I believe that did have some involvement concerning a feasibility study. But this is just zoning.
Any other questions for staff? No? Mr. Risher?
Yes, getting back to Flippin Road, is there any improvements to Flippin Road? Is that indicated in the Henry County Transportation Plan that was adopted a couple of years ago, or?
Yes, Mr. Risher, it's my understanding that Flippin Road was included in the county's comprehensive transportation plan, but I don't have a date as far as when those improvements would be expected to be made.
Any other questions for staff?
Yes, I have one additional question for staff. It appears that I was reading someplace that there is additional roadage that would be cut into this area. Can you explain?
Yes, Chair. So as part of the applicant's request, they are proposing a frontage road that would run parallel to I-75 up to connect to State Route Highway 138 in Clayton County. They are also proposing a new interchange. Of course, that's outside of our jurisdiction, but they have proposed that as well.
I guess this would be a question for the applicant. Will that reroute some of the traffic off Flippin?
I believe that's the intention.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Carmichael.
According to your criteria point 5, it says the development is likely to increase traffic volume, which would impact the level of service of Flippin Road. In saying that, are you saying at the same time that this will not create an undue burden on the road structure in that area?
No, that is not what's stated in what I have written here in the report. As this project is a development of regional impact and it is being in the process of being reviewed by the state, the first condition recommended by staff is that requirements of the Georgia Regional Transportation Authority, GRETA, Notice of Decision, or NOD, Attachment A, shall be met by the owner-developer prior to any certificate of occupancy being issued. So that Notice of Decision, Attachment A, is the recommendations that the state provides when evaluating these requests of development of regional impact, and the developer/owner will be compelled to comply with that, and that could include signal improvements, road widening, lights, signals, all manner of improvements.
I have another question. Eliminating the industrial piece is code for no more warehouses?
I believe
That's the goal?
yes, because at this site plan dated April 8th, the only industrial component is the 150,000 square foot of warehouse/office park, and the applicant has intended that he would like to remove that warehouse portion, so yes.
Mm-hmm. And about how long do you think, or do you know, or would you expect it to take the state to come back with their analysis?
That depends on a couple of factors. The applicant must complete a traffic study, and then it can move forward.
Okay.
But a few months is typical,
Okay.
maybe longer.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions for staff? Not, let's call the applicant, please. Would the applicant please come forward? Your name and address for the record, please.
Sure. This one? Hey, I'm Gary Furrow with Forest Development Group, 2819 Fort Creek Church Road, Ellenwood, Georgia, 30294. Thank you guys for giving me your time this afternoon to hear my spiel on the Reeves Creek mixed-use project. I'm very excited about creating a development of regional impact for Henry County. I'm looking forward to being in a public-private partnership with the county on at least the municipal part. I think that the issues that you guys have raised are issues that are going to be addressed in the DRI notice of decision, as well as some other things. The one thing I would say about the road, the 4-lane road that we'll be building between Walt Stevens and Georgia 138, I suspect will become a very handy cut through for the neighborhood to get to 675, because there's really not an easy way other than Flippin Road to 42 to 138 to really get to the interstate. I think this will be a 4-lane road. There'll literally be at most one traffic light, and I think it will actually speed things along for people who are commuting into Atlanta. So, but Flippin Road, with the with the development of the residential, there will be more traffic inevitably, I suspect. But that road interior to the development is really intended to carry most of the traffic. And there's actually 3.8 miles of road within the development.
Anything else you'd like to add before we pepper you with questions?
Oh, sure. Well, we'll keep it short. Okay. Ask away.
Fire away. Any questions?
Can you elaborate on the mass transit section of the plan and tell us what that's going to look like and how you see that happening?
All right. So there are really two things going on. It's interesting. This is something the county had asked me for, is a placeholder of land for mass transit. Currently, I don't think there is necessarily a plan yet for mass transit for Henry County, but I think that they see this as being an important place, that if there is going to be mass transit, that they'd like to have some sort of mass transit. The interesting part of the meeting with Greta and ARC was they were talking about the park and ride over to the west of here, I think in Clayton County. They said it was one of the most successful park and ride lots that go into the airport and downtown. So I think they were really thinking that perhaps there would be a park and ride lot there. But I don't think there's anything really clear. It's just land that we will be donating to the county for their use for mass transit in the future.
Was there any discussion that it could also be, say, a bus terminal or an extension of the MARTA rail system? Anything like that? Did they put that into the conversation at all?
There weren't deeper conversations than what we just mentioned. They wanted the land. They thought perhaps it made sense to have a park and ride lot. But as I think there's so much going on with the ATL that nobody's really completely sure what's going to happen.
Thank you.
How big a space is that?
It's actually roughly about 7 acres.
Oh, okay. Any other questions? Mr. Risher?
Yes, sir. Is there any kind of projection or idea in terms of the build-out of this project in terms of years? And the reason I ask that is that's going to kind of determine the impact on roads and other public facilities, the timing to make those upgrades. So I'd be interested in knowing what you see as the build-out scope or time frame.
That's an interesting question. This project actually made me realize my mortality. This is probably the first project I've worked on that I realized that I might not be around to see the end of, that I've ever worked on. So my current thinking is 10 to 15 years is really a rational build out for this 469 acre project. What typically happens, especially with the municipal component, my suspicion is that is sometime in the next 2 to 3 to 5 years, that component. We'll be building the 3.8 miles of road probably within the first year. So the road infrastructure will be in there and some of the site work. We'll bring sewer to the parcels within a year. The first phase of the residential along Flippin Road will happen almost immediately. The townhomes will probably happen almost immediately. We're going to develop the convention center hotel. If you see that area where next to the convention center, we'll build a 230 unit full service convention center hotel, which would actually be attached to the convention center. So that would go up at the same time the arena, the convention center, and the arts center. We're also looking at hopefully going to get traction on an innovation center. What we'd really like to do with that is create a decorative arts sort of co-work space for heirloom and custom furniture. So that we would buy some equipment, like $3 million worth of equipment, and people who in that custom crafting of furniture would come and co-work in a space and share the equipment, and so they could literally build a beautiful chair built specifically to someone's design, and knock it out in 2 or 3 weeks. And so that innovation center would probably go up at the same time as the rest of the municipal complex. There would be a limited service hotel that would go up with the convention center. There's been interest in the second full service hotel site. So we might end up with 500 hotel rooms opening up simultaneously with that. There's another hotel site that's actually in the Clayton County side that we'd probably maybe 120 rooms. Look at that. The restaurants would go up sort of simultaneously. Probably the first phase of the senior community, 187 units of assisted living, independent care, cottages would go up sort of simultaneously with the residential, the townhomes, and the single-family homes. Some of the office stuff, especially in that pod over there, one of the things that's interesting that I really didn't realize about Henry County, I'm looking for office space in Stockbridge. I can't find 2,000 square feet of Class B or A office space. So the idea we would probably do a 40,000 square foot Class A-ish office building, sort of as the roads are completed, and I think that would do pretty nicely. The retail in the city of Stockbridge, I'm concerned. I think that until something is resolved on the interstate interchange, which frankly could take 3 to 10 years, depending on the nature of the interchange. And really, it concerns, I'm probably giving you more information than you need. It concerns more whether that bridge needs to go from 2 to 4 lanes. And if you do the 4-lane bridge, then it takes a lot longer. So, in a nutshell, it probably $300 to $400 million worth of development would happen in the first 5 years. After the interstate interchange opens, another $300 to $400 million, and then the rest sort of over the next 10 to 15 years.
Which is well within your lifespan.
I hope, but you never know.
Mr. Carmichael?
Yeah, so that a country boy can understand all this information you just given us. Are you telling me that at least part of this municipal complex will be contingent on these road improvements being made?
Well, what I'll tell you is the part that isn't contingent is it was interesting. You were talking about the ARC and Greta and State Route. They don't believe I need the interstate interchange per se. I think in a reality way, I think I do, but they think from the traffic study standpoint, we got our letter of understanding from Greta, and they're having a study for over 40 intersections in the neighborhood. And so we'll be doing traffic counts and impact to these 40 intersections, which is sort of astonishing. And the truth is we certainly will have to do this 4-lane road, and then the roads that go to Flippin. And I'm sure in the recommendation from Greta there will be certain requirements with a staging.
Gentlemen?
In your concept, you have the interchange. Is there a reason why you placed it in there? Was it a necessary thing to have in order to make this plan workable?
I'm
for you?
sorry, say that again?
Okay, the interchange that you have planned here that you said Greta said you really don't need, was your position in placing it within this program here, was it because you really thought that it was necessary to move the traffic or to support the arena and the other municipal parts of it?
This is sort of what I know is that if you have a 10,000 seat arena, you'll have 5,000 cars coming to the arena in a fairly short amount of time. And the only way to handle that volume of traffic from people who are coming from the majority of Henry County, because we're really at the very northern part of the county, I think you really will need it eventually as the convention center and arena become more successful. I think that to handle the amount of traffic, you will need it, but it may not be something you need right now. I'll tell you that the retail component in the city of Stockbridge, it's a necessary thing for that retail. However, we can change the retail to some other kind of retail if the interchange doesn't happen.
Okay, and then with the arena, when most people go out for an evening, they also like to go out to other events, movies, maybe plays or other establishments that could draw larger crowds too for entertainment purposes. Are there any other entertainment venues that are planned within this?
Within the unincorporated Henry County part, primarily restaurants and food, and there might be some entertainment component, but primarily most of the entertainment component is in the city of Stockbridge. But it would be part of the overall development.
Thank you.
There's about 600,000 feet of retail planned in the 80 acres to the north of unincorporated Henry County.
Okay. And I noticed you said there would be one full-service motel there.
Two.
Two? Okay. But one of them will be coming on later on. You have I think that's what you said earlier.
Yeah, the first one would happen contemporaneous with the convention center. The second one, I've gotten interest from a full service hotelier who wants to be there, but you never know till closing, really.
Okay. All right.
But and then as Naritza mentioned, there are another two limited service hotels immediately next to it of 300 rooms in total.
Yeah, I think a full-service hotel would be a bigger draw if you're trying to get people into an arena as opposed to partial service.
Well, one of the things that I'm also kind of looking at in terms of it's interesting in terms of the municipal complex, I'm looking at doing a wedding facility where you could have 3 weddings simultaneously in really a nice wedding facility, because there aren't I don't know if you have children or grandchildren who have tried to get married on the south side. It's very hard to find really nice venues to have weddings and receptions. So I think having that kind of a facility that is really dedicated near the creek and sort of the wooded area, to have like three active places that you could have good food service and weddings.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for the applicant? Yes.
I have one question. Let's say this project is approved. Do we have, well, first of all, when would it start? And do we have funding in place to actually start the project and complete a start of what you've started?
All right. So we'll start with the timing issues. My suspicion is we will have the traffic study completed by the end of June, and that'll go to ARC and Greta and SRTA or whoever it is, and they'll review it for 30 days and come up with a notice of decision. So I'm thinking at best, you're looking at the zoning, the commissioners having a look at it in August to September, and then we would close shortly thereafter, maybe 30 days. That we do have the funding for the land purchase, the infrastructure, and the hotel that we mentioned. We've contacted a number of people that we've done business with before who buy pieces of my mixed-use deals, and they also would develop. We'd do the horizontal stuff, and we would do vertical on the restaurants, the full-service hotel, and the all the roads and water and sewer and whatnot. So yes, we have the funds for that.
So do you have any major retailers on board at this point?
No. I probably won't until we determine what the timing of the interstate interchange and the timing of the actual timing of the convention center and arena. It can take 3 years, it can take 5 years. So retailers really won't commit till they know.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Barr, you're awful quiet down there.
Yes, well, quick question. The convention center, the arena, that's good stuff, but are you going to build and fund that, or are you looking for?
There are a number of ways that conventions, one of the things I think you guys had mentioned is the feasibility study. We are engaging convention, sports and leisure. They're a company out of Minneapolis and Austin. It's funny, I found out it's actually owned by Jerry Jones and the Steinbrenner family. So that was sort of an interesting thing to find out. But they'll do the feasibility study, and based on that feasibility study, it will say, A, how feasible the arena is, the convention center, and the arts center, and what they expect the costs should be, and how successful it'll be given the market and the location. So the answer to that is it'll be a combination of funds from us, funds from municipal bonds. I mean, one of the ways that arenas get financed is in tax allocation districts, but I really can't speculate how the commission and us would come to the financing, because it's really not certain. One of the things that we are talking to is a number of corporations to be a sponsor of the arena. Corporate sponsorships are actually quite substantial. I really had no idea. I think the most interesting thing that I found out in sort of this part anyway is the soccer stadium up in Cartersville. Coke gave them something like $40 million in sponsorship dollars, which was sort of astonishing to me. So I think some portion of it could be funded by corporate sponsorships, et cetera.
Thank you.
The answer is, I don't know.
Mr. Risher, did you have a question? I'll get to you next.
I know that our duty tonight is primarily to vote on the mixed-use zoning based on this overall schematic master plan. But getting back to the phasing thing, though, that it would just seem to me that the success of the arena and some of these commercial and hotel areas would be very dependent on the completion of that proposed interchange, and based on prior experience of Henry County with the Bethlehem Road interchange proposal, and that started for the studies around the, I'd say, early 2000 or 2002, but and so nothing has moved, yet. So that's almost 20 years. So I don't know if there's any way to speed those types of studies or projects along any quicker than that now under more.
It really, like much of life in the political realm, it depends. Some things can get done quickly, quicker than others.
Well, also some of the federal constraints may be less now.
The good news about Walt Stevens is the bridge flyover is already in place, and that truly is the longest lead issue. Is those flyovers take a lot of time and money. We're only proposing a half diamond interchange so that you only catch the traffic heading north, and you could only go north. And this is really that really sort of helps the time frame because the study is not as onerous, and they're not looking at the impact of the flyover across the interstate since it's already there.
In regards to the residential portion of this plan, what is the minimum square footage, heated square footage of the houses that will be built in this area?
On the single-family home component, the 77 units and the 203 units, those are going to be your pretty much you can't build a starter home for this market under $275,000. So it's going to be somewhere north of $275,000 to $325,000. And my suspicion is they'll be in the 1,800 on the small side to 3,000 square feet. That's kind of what I would expect to see. Brick front. I mean, they'll be nice homes. It's a mixed use. The other thing that I don't think is necessarily clear is the reason it's called Reeves Creek is Reeves Creek runs throughout the project, and we're creating a 12-foot walking, biking, hiking trail through that connects every use within the development. So you can literally walk from the single-family homes on Flippin Road through the green space in the center to the convention center and the arena on a 12-foot paved, or I'm certain some portions will need to be unpaved for the wetlands issues, but you'd be able to go from one end to the other, and having that sort of walkable, livable environment, there should be some premium, and it'll be a higher end development. The townhomes, I think you've got recommendations of minimum square footages. They'll more than likely be very, very nice townhomes in the sort of $225,000 to $300,000 range. The smaller homes will actually be in the senior housing because they really honestly need to be smaller. And some of the cottages will be in that 1,200 to 1,400 square foot range, but really at that stage, it's better to be smaller.
And also, will you provide sidewalks along the Flippin Road frontage?
Yes, I mean there will be during all of the project will be interconnected with sidewalks and pathways. The intent is to see no one walking in the grass.
Imagine that. Any other questions for the applicant? No? All right, you can be seated. Thank you. Thank you. At this time, we'll allow 10 minutes for anyone who would like to speak in favor of this case. 10 minutes for anyone who would like to speak in favor of this case. There you go. And please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Arthur Christian, 509 Winterview Way, Stockbridge, Georgia, 30281. And in general, I really like the the look at the future in terms of bringing amenities to Henry County that will attract a population and actually jobs also, that we can help keep our teenagers who are growing into adults here in the area and have people employed. I think that's a really good thing. It was good to hear the applicant say that it was the intent to not see people walking on the streets. I'm hoping that that is true outside of the development also, and specifically talking not just about Flippin Road, but also along Stockbridge also, because it's very important. We've got schools in the area, buses going through there, kids at bus stops. We need to make sure that it's safe. I think it's very important that the applicant spoke of a need for a 4-lane road. That would also be along Walt Stevens, not just along the bridge, but all along Walt Stevens, all the way up to Spear Road. I don't know how far that needs to go. I think it's a good thing that we look to the future in terms of building and not wait and build all of the housing, et cetera, and make the congestion horrendous before we have a decision on whether or not the road should or will be expanded. I think that's something that really needs to be considered and done up front, if at all possible. Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this case? Please come forward. State your name and address for the record.
Thanks for hearing us. We need your help. My name is Randall Brooks, and I reside at 4350 Walt Stevens Road, Stockbridge, Georgia. We have some loud neighbors. On one side is I-75, and we front on the south side of Walt Stevens Road. So traffic has become a real issue in the last few years. I retired in October of last year, but one of the reasons that I decided to retire is I would sit at the end of my driveway with a car running, and many times it would take in excess of 10 minutes, 15 minutes in order to get out on Walt Stevens Road. The only thing that saved us to a point was there are so many traffic accidents on Walt Stevens that the ambulances stop to give assistance, and by them stopping the traffic, then I can get back on the highway. But I'd like to be part of the solution and not seem or come across just as a person that's against it, because we have a total of 9.4 acres that we purchased in 1986. I think we've got a great piece of property that would be great for many things that I'm sure you guys, excuse me, ma'am, you commissioners will be able to see and understand more than I do. I'm a retired insurance man. But the things that my wife and I are concerned about is being able to safely get out on the highway. And if you ask me what I thought the property would be great for, I think it's going to someday end up having an entrance or an exit ramp. And I also think it'll probably have mass transit in the form of a MARTA ride, possibly an elevated MARTA ride to where we are. I found it very frustrating that how difficult it is to find out any information, just like for everybody in the audience. I'm sure the majority could not see that diagram or tell whether it was New York City, New York, or Stockbridge, Georgia. And when I call the offices here, there's no assistance. Now, I realize that a lot of that is simply because you don't have access to the information that you need to answer my question about exactly where is my property. It's south, on the south side of Walt Stevens, and it's just to the east, with one of the boundaries being my property line. So I think if I had a better copy, I'd be able to easily find our location. But I just wanted to tell you that I'm hoping that they do improve the traffic. The road that they're talking about from basically my front door north to Highway 138, I'm hoping that comes to fruition sooner rather than later. But I appreciate what you guys do, and if you see anybody interested in buying any land, let me know, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
And may I have a copy of this, or is there a possibility of a copy I can get later?
5 minutes left for speaking in favor.
Anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this case tonight? In favor of this case? None? All right, we'll switch over then. Anyone who would like to speak out in opposition of this case, please step forward, state your name and address for the record. In opposition? You guys are here for something else. Please step forward. And your name and address, please.
My name is William Dempsey. I live at 203 North Bridge Drive, Stockbridge, 30281. This project probably sounds great to everybody that doesn't live right beside there. I mean, I understand the importance of a park and ride, but would you want to live right beside the one in Stockbridge that we have now, there beside the highway? I mean, we got 2 watershed creeks there that are going to be somehow or another worked around or worked over or through. Our house borders one side of this project, and there's nothing but woods there. It's, you know, peaceful woods. We're going to end up being between this project and Stockbridge City, which pretty much is the equivalent of being your house at Lowe's in Stockbridge right now. I mean, it's like I say, it's probably great for people that don't live right there between the city and the project. If you're talking about traffic, I don't see how a 10,000-seat arena is going to help solve any traffic problems. There's no talk of buffer zones at all between the existing property and the retail or the project period. The last project they proposed had a lot of community areas, parks, things like that for youth. I don't see anything like that in here. It's like I say, the flipping is already a mess. Of course, you already know that, but the actual ability to widen flipping really isn't going to be that great, as far as I can tell. Anyway, there's a lot of obstacles and a lot of problems with that whole plan, but you know, we'll have to see what happens. But mostly, you know, we don't have any real idea of what kind of buffer zones are going to be and how they're going to handle the creeks. You know, crossing the creeks, or how they're going to work that. Reeves Creek originates right there on the property, right at the property line, and goes throughout the property. So I'll be curious to know how they're going to handle that. And as far as, you know, that goes to the county water, actually. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this case, please step forward, state your name and address for the record.
Hello, my name is Frank Austin. I live at 108 Flipping Road. I'm against it, first of all, because of the traffic. Right now, if I look in front of my house, it's ridiculous. Like, this is an everyday, all day type of thing. And the first thing they're talking about putting up is the apartments. The road widening project is expected, but there's no date if it is to happen at all. And what I've read, they said there's no industrial parks, but from what the information that's still on the site and that's on paper, there is going to be industrial stuff. So I don't want to live next to a warehouse. It's never been changed. It sounds good. He said it may be feasible if they're going to make this money. So the only thing that's in stone is the apartments and things like that. It may or may not be a stadium, and that's what he just said when he said they're going to see how feasible it is to do it. If it doesn't make them money, it's not feasible. And that's pretty much where I stand with it.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this case? Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Joyce Andrews at 121 Flipping Road, and the traffic on Flipping Road is horrendous. So I'm really opposed to anything else going on Flipping. I've already voted in to take the Broder property and put 360 places in there. That's going to add to Flipping Road already. So about 11 or 12 years ago, I went to a meeting. I have documentation at home where Flippin Road was supposed to be 4-lane all the way to Rocky Creek Road in Spalding County. Nothing has ever been done about that 4-lane road. It's supposed to went from Stockbridge all the way to Spalding County. That was a priority road on the documentation I have at home. So until the road is widened and something's done about the traffic, I'm opposed to anything else being zoned on Flippin Road. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition, please come forward and state your name and address.
My name is Pamela Dempsey, and I live with the gentleman that was up here before. And I just wanted to say that property that they are planning on doing borders the whole Northbridge Drive where all of us live. I mean, we're right there on the line of where they're starting this. So we all need to know what they plan on doing with that and how we are going to get out of our subdivision, since we can hardly get out now, so we go the back way. But they have pulled that Davison's Drive into the back way, so that's going to be blocked too. I don't understand how they can, I mean, they're actually bringing Atlanta to Stockbridge, and if we wanted to live in Atlanta, we would have stayed there. We wouldn't have come out here, and we've been out here 30 years. Found it comfortable, a good place, good schooling, but I don't know how this is going to help people that like to be in the country more than the city. That's all. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition? We have 4 minutes remaining of our 10 minutes. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition?
Hi, my name is Jonathan Bergen. I reside at 100 Birch Creek Circle, McDonough, Georgia here. I know that we all want progress, and I think that that's something that's very important to us. We all want to see what the North Side has seen for so many years. They have great schools, they have great restaurants, they have great retail, and bringing in a convention center is not going to bring that here. I work as a flight attendant. I fly with tens of thousands of people that live and work and reside in Atlanta and outside of Atlanta, and many of them are choosing areas based on schools. They want good schools for their children, and that's something that we have yet to work on, and seeing some of the estimates of a convention center and us potentially being reliable for if we don't have a sponsor for a $90 million convention center when we have so many roads and traffic issues in our county. The 155 is still going to not be extended to 4 lanes until 2030, I believe, was the last estimate. And so I think that we really need to work on our education. And we have so many other exits that have great things going for them, where you just saw the Miller's Ale House. We have Dave & Buster's making a major investment in our county. So we have great things coming in already, and they just need to work on that and back off of that. We need to have sidewalks, trails to bring in people, and education needs to be boosted. I don't think we need a convention center to take care of that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this case? How much time remaining?
3 minutes, 26 seconds.
We have about 3.5 minutes.
I'm Tom Nelson. I live in Stockbridge on Mays Road. I've just moved to the county for the past 2.5 years, and part of the reason I came here was because of a little less traffic from where I was. And from what I see and the way the man talked, building that road's going to relieve all the traffic in the whole county and probably half the state, the way he described it. And to me, it's just bringing more traffic on the same area, cramming more in there and more time. The other thing was a couple of magic words he said, and I used to live in Cobb County and outside Cobb County, was municipal bonds, and Cobb County just got beat up terrible by the municipal bonds and all the money they built for the baseball stadium, and they're still taking a beating, and the taxpayers are paying for it.
Thank you. A couple minutes left. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition to this case, please come forward, state your name and address for the record. It's a race to the podium.
Hi, my name is Madeline Hicks, and I'm at the 205 Northbridge Drive off of Flippin. And so my property will be in the back of all this development that you are bringing in. And so I'm concerned because I have a grandchild, I have a family there, and so really, I mean, I'm just in opposition. I would like to know how far back are you going to build up to the North Bridge subdivision as far as the development, because my backyard is facing that, all that wood that's back there.
I can't answer that.
You can't answer that?
We'll ask the applicant. We'll call him back up. We can ask him.
Okay.
We'll ask him later, but thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Don VM, Locust Grove. I think we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit. I think we should wait until the feasibility study is performed before we rezone, because if it comes back unfeasible, why have you rezoned? And then with that, you do get into the funding and have to, how's the county going to come up with the money? And if they don't, then it seems like the project wouldn't be feasible then for the developer. So I think you might want to just table it, postpone it until that feasibility comes back. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? We're just about out of time.
About
30 seconds. If not, I guess we probably need to call the applicant back up. Mr. Furrow, would you please come back up for additional questions? Questions for staff or applicant? Can you address the buffer issue? I know they're concerned about how close this is all going to come to their backyard, and what if any buffer will be there for them.
There actually is a 60-foot buffer requirement in the county code between well, actually we're putting residential houses up against their residential houses.
So it would be someone else's backyard, possibly,
right.
plus some.
And the scale is kind of deceptive, because if you look at the residential from North Ridge Road to where you get to the apartments and in the creek in the walkway, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of 1,500 feet. So there's really about a half a mile of housing between their houses and really the commercial part of the property. So the other thing that's sort of interesting about the Northridge guys is they're actually physically quite a bit higher than the rest of the property, somewhere in the neighborhood of 20, at a minimum 20 to 30 feet. So they're actually up above the rest of the site, because the land the entire property goes to the creek on both sides. So the neighbors on Northridge, it's called Northridge for a reason. It's the high point of the area. So it kind of, there's sort of a lot of grade between Northridge and this subdivision. So the houses are actually not going to be seeable unless they walk down. And so they would really, frankly, have to be trespassing in order to see the houses.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have one question here. There was some concerns about an industrial area. Have you ruled out totally that you will not be doing any type of industrial?
There will be delivery trucks to the retail, but there's really not industrial. It'll be office with some. In the 150,000 square foot building, it's office. There may be an area for people to move their product for salespeople. I don't know if you've seen that kind of thing, but there's no industrial in the sense of industrial. It's office, showroom.
There was also a concern that was raised in reference to the apartments as opposed to the arena and so forth. So what would be your response to that?
In terms of the apartments?
The apartments being built and then the other arenas and the municipal part not being.
The sort of the way that the timing of things are working, I should have the feasibility study prior to any time the commission actually hears the case. So we'll have a very good idea of how, frankly, my expectation is that prior to the rezoning hearing, we'll have an agreement on how the funding of the convention center and arena will be. So really, if it's not feasible, then the convention center won't be a part of the project, and the zoning will change. So it'll be an amended zoning if it's not feasible.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Carmichael?
I have a question for staff. If the feasibility study comes back negative, are we locked in to this mixed-use rezoning?
So the rezoning request is just for the mixed-use designation. In a case like this, it's very likely that some of the uses within may shift, but condition 7 reads, the development shall be constructed in substantial compliance with the preliminary site plan dated April 8th, 2019. But I would like to say that it's extremely likely that by the time this case goes to the Board of Commissioners for rezoning, we will recommend completely different, maybe not completely different, but we will recommend some changes to the conditions due to the change in the site plan. So for example, things concerning roadways for industrial use traffic, that won't be needed because that won't be a part of their proposal any longer. But if the rezoning for MU is approved, the property will continue. Even if they modify something, the zoning of the property will be MU.
Okay. And, my other question was along the same lines that you just mentioned. Since the industrial portion has been eliminated now, do we need to make that one of the conditions of approval that
You can. Staff has not recommended that, but that is something that you can do or the Board of Commissioners can do upon approval.
Any other questions for the applicant or staff? Mr. Risher?
Now, has the industrial, or I guess warehouse portion of this project plan, has that been omitted, or has it just been reduced to 150,000 square feet?
The nature of the building has changed to office. Previously, I was thinking maybe 50% office, 50% retail in the 150,000 square foot building, but we're going 90 to 95% office. So it will be an office building.
All right, then let me ask the staff now if whatever we vote on in terms of the mixed-use district, appended to that motion would be the map that you gave us tonight, as well as some 16 conditions that you've listed in the report. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We did not receive this updated information until earlier today, so it was not possible to change the report that late in the game, as it were. So yes, all of these conditions had this site plan in mind, but you can change the wording of some conditions if you feel that's appropriate.
Any other questions? Staff or applicant? No? I think we've exhausted that. Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Any additional questions for staff? No further? All right. Let's call the case.
RZ 1901, the Forest Development Group Incorporated of Ellenwood, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, Residential Agricultural, to MU, Mixed Use, for property located on Flippin Road east of Interstate 75 in land lots 38, 39, 26, and 27 of the 12th District. The property consists of 317.661 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a mixed-use development to include single-family, multifamily residences, office, and commercial uses. This is in both Districts 4 and 5, and the report was presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Nieves, Planner 2.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that we move with staff recommendation of RZ 1901 of approval with the condition that it has been moved to change it from the industrial to office area.
And you want to include the 16 conditions recommended by staff as well?
Staff recommendation of the 16 conditions.
Plus the additional. Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor? The motion carries. Thank you. Let's call the next case.
RZ 1904, AGG Henry LLC, Rufus Hill of Atlanta, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA, Residential Agricultural, to R2, Single Family Residence, for property located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Bowen Road and Highway 138 East in land lot 133 of the 11th District. The property consists of 18.36 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision in District 5, and the report is presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Nieves, Planner 2.
Good evening again, Chair and board members. This rezoning request concerns a portion of the property located at the north and east of the intersection of Bowen Road and Highway 138 East, as highlighted in green in your exhibit books and as seen on the overhead screen. So the total acreage of this property is 23. This rezoning request is only concerning 18.36 acres. The applicant is requesting a rezoning from RA, Residential Agricultural, to RS, Residential Suburban, for the development of a 13-lot single-family residential development on the east side of Bowen Road. The subject property does not have access to sewer, and so the residents would each have their own septic system. The subject property is within the Highway Corridor Overlay District and will be required to comply with the development standards of the overlay. And I did want to make a correction. I stated that the rezoning was from RA to RS. That was a mistake. I apologize. They're requesting R2. The subject property has a future land use map designation of medium density, which allows for up to 6 dwelling units per net acre. The proposed development has a density of 0.78 dwelling units per net acre. Due to the request complying with the future land use designation, staff recommends approval of the request with 3 conditions, and I'll place those conditions on the board. Actually, planning staff received comments from Henry County Department of Transportation after these staff reports were completed. We received those comments today. So based on the comments received by Department of Transportation, we'd actually like to recommend an additional condition. I'll place this on the board. And it reads, owner/developer is to preserve right-of-way at 60 feet from center of Highway 138 along the site's frontage. Thank you, and I'd be happy to take any questions you have.
Any questions for staff? Mr. Risher.
Yes, I'm just looking at some of the maps for the exhibits, and it shows on some of the county zoning map that this property goes all the way to Bowen Road and then to 138, but yet the maps prepared by the engineer or surveyors show it shows it not fronting on those two roads. And so I just wanted to know which one is correct.
They're both correct. The zoning map, which is on the bottom, which you're referencing, shows the entire parcel, which is 23 acres, if I'm not mistaken, which is this one on the bottom. So this is the entire parcel, but the developer only intends to rezone this that's shown here, which is roughly 18.36.
Okay, that clears it up.
Any other questions for staff? No? We'll ask the applicant to please come forward. Name and address.
Good evening, Chair and members of the board. I'm Anthony Wiggins, an engineer with Morbass Consulting, located at 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. I'm representing AGG Henry in this rezoning before you this evening. The subject property that we're rezoning consists of 18 acres of land located on the northeast intersection of Highway 138 and Bowen Road. We're requesting to rezone the property from RA to R2 for the development of 13 single-family residential lots. Each lot will have a minimum of 125 foot of frontage and will contain a minimum of 30,000 square feet of lot area. The future land use map designates the property as a medium-density residential, which allows up to 6 units per acre. We are requesting an overall density that is less than 1 unit per acre, which is well below the maximum allowed. The surrounding areas are predominantly zone RA single-family lots, which are a 1 acre minimum, while our request is slightly less than, slightly smaller in lot area. We're proposing a density of less than 1 unit per acre, which we believe is compatible and consistent with the surrounding areas. We understand the property is located within the Highway Protection Corridor District, and we have been working with staff to ensure this layout meets all the requirements of that overlay district. We've read the staff's report and understand that they have recommended approval of our request with 3 conditions, with the new one as well, per the DOT recently, and we're in agreement with those conditions We're in agreement with those conditions and respectfully request your approval this evening. At this time, I'm happy to answer any questions. I understand you had one question about access to 2 different properties, 2 different roadways, but we're going to access Bowen Road only. Be one of your answers.
Any questions for the applicant?
Why did you not develop it to the front? Understand that the whole piece was part of the property, but you're only asked to rezone that section.
As opposed to accessing State Route 138?
Yeah.
Just for the ease, instead of going through DOT for permitting purposes, it was easier to access through Bowen Road for this residential rezoning request.
I believe he was asking, why didn't you develop all of it?
Oh, develop all of the property was your question?
Yeah, I can't see it up there, but the, not what's on 138, but it's to the top and the bottom of Yeah, that's it.
At this time, at the corner lot, the corner portion, our client just decided to save that for later and not rezone that portion. But they do own the property that fronts Bowen Road, and they're in the process of pulling a building permit to front lots that meet the current zoning that fronts Bowen Road currently.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant?
So basically, at some point, he wants to develop those, but as of now, that's not in the plan.
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
And he would have to come back and meet the requirements for that at that point?
Correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right.
Okay, but right now then, the section that's left out of this plat that's on Bowen Road, I guess he plans to go ahead and develop that property as RA is currently zoned?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay.
Currently, as it's currently zoned, correct.
Any other questions for the applicant or staff right now? None? We're good? You may be seated. Thank you. At this time, we'll allow 10 minutes for anyone who would like to speak in favor of this case. Please come forward, state your name and address. In favor of this case? None? Anyone who would like to speak in opposition to this case? Please step forward, state your name and address, please. We have a total of 10 minutes.
Paula Ray, 87 Bowen Road, Stockbridge, Georgia, 30281. Our property is directly across from the property we're talking about, and we're right in the middle of that property. And it disturbed me when he said he wasn't going to open up an exit route to 138, because we already have a problem getting out of Bowen Road onto 138 because it's a cut through. People coming up 155 cut through our road to get over to 138 to make a right to go back up to Stockbridge. There's a stop sign there, and sometimes it might take us 5-10 minutes to even turn to the left on 138 going over to Rockdale County. We get caught in that rush hour traffic, and it's just like everywhere else. There's just so much traffic, we can't get out in it, and we fear for our life just trying to make a left turn out onto the road. So it's ludicrous to think that you'd only have one opening, because when you come up to the stop sign on Bowen going to 138, there's a traffic light 1 mile south of there. And when the traffic light releases, then traffic is coming toward you this way and it's coming toward you that way, and you can't get out onto the highway. And there's a curve there, and you can't, if the trees wasn't there, you could see around that curve, but I predict if houses are there, you couldn't see the curve there either. So it's just difficult because of the traffic. And I know we've been told since the Olympics in '96 that they was going to widen 138 and 155. None of that happens. And there's traffic coming out of DeKalb County on 155 all the time, and they make a right turn going up to Stockbridge. There's traffic coming out of Rockdale County all the time going to Stockbridge. Then there's traffic coming down 138 and up 155 at that intersection where the traffic light is. And then Bowen is directly across from White Road right there off of 138. And if we try to cross over to Bowen to get on to 155 and avoid that intersection, you can't do that either. So if we don't have a roundabout or a traffic light or something, we're not going to be able to get out of our subdivision, because I can predict with that many homes, there's probably going to be 3 or 4 people stacked at the traffic light, at the stop sign, trying to get on to 138. And you're talking about maybe 15-20 minutes just to get out onto 138 during rush hour traffic, because we're talking about 20-30 cars at a time coming up that road. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Your name and address, please.
Hi, thank you. A group of us have a sort of petition that we've signed here, residents of the area. We have 71 supporters, and I have just a statement I'd like to read, and then maybe a few comments afterwards. As concerned neighbors, we, the undersigned property owners, do hereby protest a proposed rezoning of property located along Highway 138 at the corner of Bowen Road, Stockbridge, Georgia, Henry County, parcel ID 083-0201-200, land lot 132, District 11, from RA residential agriculture to R2 zoning. Changing the zoning to R2 would allow the developer the potential to build nearly twice the number of houses on this land as opposed to if it remained RA. We are concerned that the increase of density the rezoning will permit will negatively affect this area and its residents. We respectfully ask for no zoning change on this parcel for numerous reasons, not limited to the following: congestion and additional traffic, environmental disruption, burden on local schools, impact on infrastructure and on essential services, especially emergency services, as well as the potential for increased crime and lower property values. Other additional concerns. The proposed rezoning is inconsistent with the area. The current zoning of the property is compatible with the surrounding properties. Looking at the map, you can see all of the houses, all of the properties are on fairly sizable parcels of land, which is in keeping with the district. There's one small pocket that is zone commercial at the corner of Highway 138 and Highway 155 that currently has a traffic light to manage traffic as well as acceptable road width for turning lanes. This small pocket does not make the current RA zoning for the subject property incompatible. The proposed rezoning is inconsistent with area and the current rezoning, which is described in the county code as intended to preserve the mixed agricultural and residential character of land while providing a transition between rural and agricultural land and suburban and urban land and locations to carry out agricultural activities, including those related to crops, livestock, and timber. Insufficient road structure. The intersection of Bowen Road, White Drive, and Highway 130 is already congested and a dangerous area, and if the rezoning is permitted, could lead to more accidents, injuries, and fatalities. The sharp curve just east of this intersection limits the view of oncoming traffic as it is now. Both Bowen Road and White Drive are already overused as a cut-throughs, as mentioned before by our neighbor, and cannot handle additional heavy through traffic. Both roads are narrow and do not allow for turn lanes, limiting traffic flow. This intersection and nearby intersections cannot handle the increase in traffic, which raises the idea that in the future the county will need to invest in expanding the roads and a sizable amount of money in infrastructure in the area. Clearing the lot and blasting, which will likely be required as it is has a large amount of rock and the impact to existing area homes and foundation stability. Protection for residents from increased stormwater runoff and the impact on wetlands, floodplains, streams, and stream buffers. The environmental impact is a disruption of several natural springs on this lot and an impact on wildlife. The lot has overgrown significantly. For the foregoing reasons, we urge you to vote against this proposed rezoning. On a personal note, I'd like to say that I just moved to this area 2 years ago from a very dense area. I lived in Grant Park with my partner for a long time, and it is very dense. It is undergoing intense commercialization right now. What drew us to this area was the rural aspect of it and its beauty, and that Panola State Park was nearby. And having a development like this in that area just seems to me to run against all of that. That's not what I and a number of people I imagine that live there, envision as, a nice place to be when, suddenly you've got these developments with large homes on small lots. And it just is inconsistent, and we hope that the board will not recommend rezoning here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to speak in opposition? How much time do we have?
2 minutes.
We have 2 minutes remaining.
Well, I'll make it quick.
All right.
My name's Linda Young. I'm at 260 Bowen Road, Stockbridge, Georgia. I agree with everything the gentleman said. The traffic would be horrible on our street. I've lived there for 15 years. Right now, it is pretty bad cutting through from 155 to 138. But I just don't want the traffic. I don't want the people. I don't want the trash. I don't want the crime. I don't want anything else to change over there, so I am opposed to it.
Charles Wilson, 297 Bowen Road. 54 years ago, I started Stockbridge School in the 2nd grade, and it was a dirt road, a single lane dirt road. But over the years, it's changed, but when you throw something like that in there, It's gonna mess it up big time. There's a lot of people, well, there's about 3 people that's got wells. If they go to blasting or any kind of runoff or anything, it's gonna mess our wells up. We've had a well for 54 years, and I love my well water. But if it's gotta change, it's gonna change. We can't stop it. But I really wouldn't like to see that many houses. Maybe if they was an acre, on acre, Mom and Daddy had to have 1.25 acres to build a lot on that corner. How come everybody else on that road can't have 1.25 acres to build on? Or 1.5 acres? Why's it gotta be 1/2 acre? That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Time exhausted or a little bit?
Exhausted. We on to
All right.
35 seconds.
All right. So I ask the applicant to please come back up if you would. Any additional questions? Oh, our time's expired. I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, our time's run out. We'll have the applicant come back up, please.
If I may, the clock on the wall does indicate that there's 30 seconds.
33 seconds.
Oh, okay. Pardon me then. You have 33 seconds, sir.
My name is Dale Dunn at 2354 Highway 138, and I'm more interested in values. What kind of homes are they planning on building? Entrance, landscaping, sidewalks, and values like that. That's what I'd like to ask the applicants or the staff. So that was my main question. Thanks.
All righty. Thank you. All right. Now we'll have the applicant come back up and we'll ask him. What will the houses look like?
Okay. Glad you asked that question. The house sizes will be minimum 2,600 square feet, 2 and up, 2-story, 4-sided brick homes. Price point average 300,000, 300,000 and up. In regards to the density, the current zoning of the property is medium density, which is up to 6 units per acre. We averaged that at 1.3 acres is the average lot size. So there'll be plenty of space between the lots. We'll have sidewalks on both sides of the street. We have the highway corridor. We'll have some landscaping as well. Plenty of landscaping along 138 and a 10-foot sidewalk along 138 as well.
I guess my question is for staff. Based on the density and the future land development as of right now, based on the future land development, how many houses could you actually put on that property based on the future land development?
With its current zoning or with an R2 zoning?
With an R2 zoning.
Well, this property doesn't have access to sewer, so it's required to have a minimum of 30,000 square feet. So you're looking at a density of less than 2, no matter how many lots you put on the property. Okay. Minimum is 30,000 square feet. So.
Okay. And that would put you at approximately what's the difference that we would be looking at in terms of what they're doing and what the future land development would call for?
Future land use map would allow for up to 6 dwelling units per acre. So that's much, much denser.
Okay. So in the future, you could possibly be looking at twice as much or 3 times as what we're looking at now?
6 times as many.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Just to
Mr.
be clear.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, sir. Could you show us where there's any permanent or semi-permanent streams on this property?
Up in this area, in the northeast corner.
Okay. All right, could a house be built on that property, or is that going to be a retention area?
That would be our retention area right there. It would be on its own lot.
Okay, so that lot then would be left pretty much as it is in its natural state, except for the detention basin, is that correct?
That is correct. That is
okay,
correct.
But otherwise, there's no permanent or semi-permanent streams on the property?
That's correct.
And so that area actually is being protected by your plan.
That's correct. Exactly.
I want to be clear, 1.3 acres?
Correct.
Okay.
Average lot size.
And what's the road frontage on the lots?
60 foot right away. The road frontage is 60 foot frontage, but we have 60 foot wide on Bowen Road.
I believe the applicant stated earlier that the lots would be 125 feet wide.
Each lot would be 125 feet wide. Correct.
Okay.
Do you anticipate being able to do side entry garage on a majority of the lots? Or you can't tell yet?
I can't tell yet. This image is side entry.
Yeah.
So I suspect the majority will be, if not all.
Okay.
Correct.
So what would be the required lot width? Is it 125 feet?
Yes, Mr. Risher, that's correct. Minimum lot width for R2 zoning is 125 feet minimum.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Can I put that one map up that showed the lot divisions again, please? Okay, in between lots 8 and 9 that both have road frontage on Highway 138, a concern that I have is the single entrance into the area. If there's a tree down, if there's a vehicle blockage, car fire, whatever, and emergency services need to get in or people needed to get out and go to work, there's no way out of this. If there was is it a deal killer for the developer where the lot line is in between 8 and 9? Could that be a second entrance that opens up with a deceleration lane on 138? Because most of what I'm hearing is you're saying that it was an inconvenience to get the permitting to go onto a state highway. We've got a room full of people saying it's an inconvenience to get on the state highway as it is now. So would the developer, as a concession, be willing to make this a second entrance, alleviates traffic, makes it a safer egress and degress in and out of the area? Would that be a concession your developer would be open to?
We could consider that.
If it was pending approval.
If it was pending approval, yes, it's a lot of factors that play into that as far as intersection distance, width between intersections. I think we looked at that, but we could take that into consideration.
What is the topography like in that area along 138? Is it steep or?
Along 138.
And would that be a factor in terms of entrance and egress?
I think it's pretty level, roadside ditches in that area, no curb and gutter.
So the issue really is in the permitting process. It takes a long time in order to get a permit to be able to add that second access point? That's your concern there, primarily?
Concern is the access point on 138 and being in close proximity to the next intersection. You have to have a certain distance away from the next intersection.
Oh, I see.
So by putting multiple access points,
I see.
Yeah.
So are you saying your concern would be then that through the permitting process that would be denied because of that factor?
More than likely.
I see.
Yes.
The way that the layout is configured, right now you'd have 13 lots because one lot or one parcel would be set aside for stormwater.
That's correct.
And so, basically 10 trips per day per lot would only yield traffic of around 130 to 150 trips per day over a 24-hour period. So that's really kind of minimal traffic generation by many standards.
Correct. Like you said, the way it's zoned currently, it could be 6 times more traffic the way it's currently zoned at the moment.
Any other questions for the applicant? None? Thank you. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff at this point? If not, let's call the case.
RZ 1904, AGG Henry LLC, Rufus Hill.
I was able to get your attention.
I'm sorry.
What would be the procedure? I don't know. To ask for the second entrance as a condition of approval. What's the? I don't know that proper procedure, but
So
could you explain that to me about making that a?
If you'd like me to, I'd be happy to. What we're looking for right after the case is called is a motion, and that motion can be for approval or denial. And if the motion is for approval, the person who makes the motion can include conditions, and we would hope that you guys would consider our staff recommended conditions, but you could certainly add a condition if you'd like, whoever decides to make that motion.
Does that help you answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Okay, good, thank you. Let's call the case.
Yes, ma'am. RZ 1904, AGG Henry LLC Rufus Hill of Atlanta, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to R2 Single Family Residence for property located on the northeast corner of the intersection of Bowen Road and Highway 138 East in Land Lot 133 of the 11th District. The property consists of 18.36 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family residential subdivision in District 5, and the report was presented by Mrs. Yuritsa Nieves, Planner 2.
Do I have a motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we move with staff recommendation of the RZ 1904 of approval and based on with staff conditions.
Do I have a second? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you. And looks like we'll call our final case.
RZ 19-5, General Holdings Unlimited, LLC of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RS Residential Suburban for property located on the northeast corner of the intersection East Lake Road and Springdale Road in land lots 3 and 4 of the 11th District. The property consists of 50.4 plus or minus acres, and the request is for a single-family townhomes. The property is located in District 4 and will be presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisell, Chief Planner.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members. The request before you is illustrated on the overhead and also in your exhibit books at the corner of Springdale Road and Eastlake Parkway. The request is for RS Residential Suburban, and in this case, it's proposed to be a mixture of townhomes and also 3 duplex lots for a total of 184 total dwelling units. The density that's proposed is 5.99. The future land use map for this area is medium density residential, which supports a density of up to 6 dwelling units per acre. Staff has evaluated the applicant's request. We've looked at the character of the area, including a relatively newly zoned property on Miller's Mill Road, which is on the other side of Springdale Road. And we do recommend approval with the 5 conditions that are located in your exhibit books. I would like to note that our county DOT did have comments that they were able to provide to us earlier today. One of the comments was that the traffic impact study may come back with a recommendation that there be limited access for the property off of Springdale Road because of the distance from the intersection, perhaps also site distance. So for that reason, there may not be a full access point that's allowed to the subject property from Springdale Road. It may end up being a right-in, right-out. This comment was provided mainly for informational purposes because it will be based upon the traffic impact study, and also the requirements in the Unified Land Development Code. That being said, we do recommend approval with the 5 conditions.
Does the board have questions for staff? Okay, Mr. Carmichael.
Stacy, because I'm new at this, how do we compute density? Do you use the total acreage or simply the acreage that is going to be used?
So it's very interesting in this case, and I think that you're going to enjoy hearing from the applicant about this one. Henry County has a very strict policy in the Unified Land Development Code regarding density. So it's not just backing out the land that is going to be used for the roads, it's also the land that's going to be used for any utility easements, or the land that's actually going to be used for open space if that open space will be on its own lot. So the density is intended to be just for the house lots, and in this case, townhouses, and for the duplexes. But you'll notice that there's a lot of amenities that is illustrated on the overhead and also in your exhibit books. So to calculate the density, these amenity areas would actually be located in a shared easement going across private property. And so that's why you can see these lines that are radiating out from the circumferential street that's located on the overhead. But I think that we would gain more information by speaking with the applicant.
Okay, well, one final question of you. Duplexes, they count as one unit rather than two?
They'll count as one lot because there are
One
two
lot.
dwelling units
Okay.
on one lot. So these are duplex lots.
Mr. Richard.
Okay, Stacy, you mentioned that there might be some modification about the access on Springdale Road. Now, would that be at the existing paved stub out where that access point possibly would come out?
If I understand correctly, there is an existing driveway at this location. That's my understanding. But what's illustrated on the applicant's site plan is a full access point, which may or may not be supported by the traffic impact study and also the requirements in the Unified Land Development Code.
Any additional questions? Okay. If not, we'd like the applicant to come forward, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Chair, members of the board. My name is Steve Moore, Bass Consulting, 1350 Keys Ferry Court, McDonough, Georgia. Here tonight representing Georgia Holdings Unlimited in this rezoning request. As Stacy mentioned, we're proposing approximately 50 acres of development, or development of approximately 50-acre tract of land, and to rezone from RA to RS for essentially 178 townhome, single-family residential townhome units and 6 duplex units on 3 lots. Just another look at the plan. Again, as Stacy mentioned, we're proposing just under the 6 units per acre that is allowed by the future land use map with the medium density designation. And I'm glad, Stacy, and you questioned about the density, because Stacy will tell you that is just I'm in their office several times debating why this rule is in the ordinance. But basically, the way that the ordinance is written is it penalizes you for dedicating open space as far as density is concerned. For every acre of open space you create to dedicate to a homeowners association to either protect a natural resource or to create a usable space for the residents, if it's 6 units to the acre that you're allowed to have, it's 6 less lots that you essentially get, or units that you get to have on your property for dedicating an acre. It's just the way the ordinance is written. And I've been working with Dante on how to make that ordinance read so that it doesn't penalize somebody for trying to do a good thing and put property in conservation and to protect to protect it through covenants and protected instruments. So the way that we've put this plan together does meet the rules, and it doesn't show, the lots don't show up necessarily on this plan. But on this plan, as Stacy mentioned, essentially the usable area of the residence would be limited to just beyond the rears of these houses. The balance of the property may right now be owned in fee by each property owner, but it will have a conservation easement or a recreational easement over top of that property that gives everyone in the community unilateral rights to cross over the property to use the amenities and that type of stuff. Again, and if the ordinance gets changed, then we would love to be able to convert this back and take the balance of that property. Hopefully that would ever happen before it got developed fully and lots sold, but that we would prefer that property to be in some common area ownership, but the way the ordinance is written, again, it's just not possible. So that's why we've come up with this plan. We feel like it's a sound plan. Even though the lots extend and occupy all of the land, our developed area is really almost more than 50% or less than 50% of the total site area. So we have 50 acres. I think we're proposing just at 25 acres of development. So we're surrounded on 3 sides by creeks. Those areas, there is a floodplain. It's a little hard to see, but there's a light blue line that runs the perimeter of the site. That area, again, is going to be protected in conservation easements that would benefit all of the homeowners within the community. We've proposed 2 entrances to the property, one that is off of Springdale Road, and then one off of East Lake, located at the existing median break. So that would be our primary entrance and a full access. The one on Springdale, I am aware of David Simmons' concerns about site distance, and it's really odd when they realigned Springdale and widened and paved. They built a deceleration lane and a stubbed asphalt driveway into this property that doesn't meet site distance. Can't explain it, but it's challenged with some vertical relief on Springdale Road. And so after talking with David, we think it's going to most likely be a right in, right out, or possibly just a right out. And that's going to depend on some further engineering studies that we'll be doing as we move through this process. So we really worked hard to try to make this a unique, different than a regular townhome project. And I worked with the applicant a good bit. And one of the things that we implemented as part of this plan was this divided median roadway that we're proposing within the project. So this is just kind of a blow up of those areas. But normally in a residential community, and we would just do a divided median at the entrance, just enough where they could put some landscaping and a sign, and then as soon as you're past that 20 or 30 feet, you're neck down to 2 lanes and you're on down the roads. This one proposes this divided median roadway that runs actually almost halfway through the project. So this is a landscaped median that is a much wider pavement section, wide enough to do all this landscaping here. All the lots that front that section of the road will have rear alley access for those lots. So those lots will, as you're driving down that road, you're going to have landscape and trees on the left in the median, and you're going to have houses with no driveways on the right. And it's going to be a very nice focal point as you're moving into the community. In addition, in the very center of the project, and again, just in an effort to add something to this project, we do have a central roundabout that will be a very heavily landscaped roundabout. This is a representative example that the applicant provided to me that he intends to build here. But that will serve all of these residents in the middle, and in addition, all of the alleyways kind of spine from the units that face the boulevard roadways will access. The amenity center. So there's 2 amenity centers proposed on the site. One area which is, maybe I should point to this first. The area to the east, the easternmost entrance, will contain a playground and a dedicated parking area. The area to the west will have an open air pavilion, a grilling center and a picnic area, and then a community fire pit. both of those areas will be connected with walking trails, and then we also have a dog park that comes off of the walking trail. Again, this is not in the floodplain, unusable property. This is high and dry, very good developable property. It would be an ideal use for this. So the amenity center this is again the photos that the applicant provided that he intends on following. So we again just feel like aside from the catch with the open space, we've done a fair job of at least clustering our development to the center of the project, to the heart of the project, and in doing so, by preserving almost half or more than half of the property, we're protecting the existing streams that run adjacent to our property. We are just and really just occupying the area that really needs to be developed and keeping the areas that don't need to be developed undeveloped. We are in the Highway Corridor Protection Overlay District, so we know we have a obligation to meet those requirements with a 10-foot wide sidewalk along East Lake Road or East Lake Parkway. In addition, we'll also have sidewalks on both sides of the streets internally. The buildings themselves, the applicant is still working with his architect to finalize the footprints, but we did provide these images to Commissioner Thomas when we were talking with her as to some of the various architectural styles that he intends to use. There's not one exact style picked, but his idea for this project is that these will be kind of higher end townhomes, probably starting in the low to mid 200s. They will be HOA maintained, the exteriors, so that we're ensuring that one resident doesn't let his unit, kind of fall to waste and everyone else suffers as a result of it. So there'll be covenants and restrictions that mandate and control the maintenance and upkeep of these structures. I guess that covers the architectural styles. And again, we hope as we move forward, we'll have some slides, some additional renderings and elevation views that better represent exactly what we're talking about. But those are two options that we're considering at this point. We've read staff's report, understand that they've recommended approval with 5 conditions and now a 6th condition. We're in agreement with all of those conditions and happy to answer any questions you've got.
Okay. Does the board have questions for the applicant? Mr. Cormack?
Steve, did you indicate that will there be single-family residence?
They're fee simple single-family townhomes.
Townhomes.
They're townhomes. They're attached townhomes in between 6 and 8 units per building. But they are not rental units. They're not like apartments. They're fee simple. They get a deed to the property in the front and the property to the back, and the floor under their feet.
Okay. And why the 3 duplexes?
Well, part of it was to offer a variety, and I actually think we'll end up adding more duplexes as this project develops. But the zoning that we were requesting of RS requires the mixture of at least 2 uses. And so I appreciate staff's recommendation. One of the conditions that actually says that the uses have to contain at least townhomes, duplexes, or single family. And I think that may be even a possibility that some single family could get thrown into that project. But the RS requires the mixture of at least 2 uses.
Okay. And you said the development will be governed by a homeowners association?
Yes, sir.
And will the homeowners association be responsible for maintaining the amenity areas?
Yes, sir. The amenity areas, all the landscaped areas, the planted areas inside of the medians, because the county DOT is not going to do that. We wouldn't put that on them. That would be the homeowners taking care of that, as well as the roundabout and the exterior of the buildings.
Okay. Any additional questions for the applicant? Okay. If not, you may be seated, sir. At this time, we'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor of this case. 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in favor. No one's coming forward. We'd like to allot 10 minutes for anyone wishing to speak in opposition of the case. Okay, no one's coming forward. Does the board have any additional questions for the applicant or staff?
For staff, on page 3, you got section 3, Miller's Mill Road. What is that? Is that the one that we had a couple of months ago?
Yes, sir, that's correct. RZ 1821, request for RS residential suburban, a mixture of single-family homes and age-targeted condominiums approved for Miller's Mill Road. Yes, sir.
And that was approved?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it was approved by the Board of Commissioners.
Any additional questions? Mr. Ball?
Yeah, that was approved by the Board of Commissioners as
Yes,
well?
sir. Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Okay. If there's no additional questions, we'd like to call the case, please.
RZ 19-05, General Holdings Unlimited LLC of McDonough, Georgia, requests a rezoning from RA Residential Agricultural to RS Residential Suburban for the property located on the northeast corner of the intersection East Lake Road and Springdale Road in land lots 3 and 4 of the 11th District. The property consists of 50.4 plus or minus acres, and the request is for single-family townhomes. The property is located in District 4 and was presented by Stacy Jordan Rudisell, Chief Planner.
Okay, we've heard the case. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I propose that we approve the request on RZ 1905 in line with the staff recommendation for approval, and also the conditions, stipulated conditions listed by the staff.
Do we have a second? Second. Have a second by Mr. Richard. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay. Have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
A second.
Second. All right. This meeting is adjourned.